There's Jean-Luc Brunel again and Epstein. This is them in Zorro Ranch. The accomplice who was going to testify against Jeffrey Epstein then went dark. This is pretty wild, guys. French model scout Jean-Luc Brunel was negotiating to provide prosecutors with evidence against the sex offender in 2016, 3 years before he was finally arrested, but ultimately backed out. So, dude, this is crazy. See, here's what the first thing that I wonder about this, guys, is I wonder about the timing, right? Like why in the midst of 2016 was Jean-Luc Brunel all of a sudden coming forward? This was literally before a lot of this stuff went on the public record. It was like, 2015, Virginia Giuffre does have that civil lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, but this was very early on in the process. It was not like all the Epstein shit had been out there for a while. Jean-Luc Brunel was ready to turn on the man who had been his patron and partner. French modeling scout was prepared to tell prosecutors what he knew about Epstein's sex trafficking. He was secretly negotiating in 2016 with lawyers representing Epstein's victims. Brunel's lawyer told him his client recruited girls for Epstein and had incriminating photographs. They discussed a date for Brunel to walk into the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York in exchange for immunity. Holy shit. So, dude, he was going to turn in photos. According to handwritten notes taken by a federal prosecutor in February of 2016, Brunel was afraid of being prosecuted. And then Brunel went dark. So he's saying he had photos. This is pretty crazy. There's the actual letter. Okay. Wow. This is a multi-page letter from 2/29/16. Brunel doesn't want to implicate himself. Brunel told friend Alan that he has photos made years ago. So apparently Brunel said to many people that they have photos. In December 2014, Virginia Giuffre, filed a motion in a joint lawsuit that was challenging Epstein's non-prosecution agreement related to his arrest in Florida. In one of the exhibits, she alleged that Brunel trafficked girls as young as 12 to his friends, including Epstein. The allegations placed Brunel in the public crosshairs alongside Epstein. As a result, the relationship between Brunel and Epstein appeared to fray. In January 2015, Brunel and MC2 sued Epstein in a Florida court, claiming the agency had gone from being worth millions to almost worthless because of the notoriety around his crimes. The lawsuit alleged Brunel had lost potentially $10 million. Photographers and scouts had cut ties. Brunel could no longer recruit new models because families refused to entrust their daughters because he was linked to Epstein. The following month, Tate, Brunel's lawyer, called Edwards, the victim's attorney, saying he was having trouble serving Epstein with the lawsuit, raised the possibility that Brunel possessed photographic evidence against Epstein. Edwards, unsure whether this represented a genuine break between the two men or a ploy, said he alerted his law partner. So the rift was temporary, though. Recently released Justice Department files show. By April 2015, Brunel suggested a friend to mediate the dispute. And then later, Epstein asked to meet Brunel. I have some ideas that I think you will like. Still, over the following year, Pottinger, along with Boyes and Edwards, corresponded with federal prosecutors in New York and Tate to get Brunel to cooperate. By 2016, he had agreed to turn himself in and was naming names. The prosecutor's notes from February 29, 2016 revealed the victim's lawyers briefed the prosecutors. Tate said his client had photographic evidence. Brunel doesn't want to implicate himself. Pottinger said yesterday, I spoke of Daniel Syed, whom Jean-Luc Brunel describes as a scout, for him and for Epstein. Tate said Epstein eventually called him to discuss Brunel's suit, bonding over their shared Brooklyn roots. He was a real charmer. He said Brunel eventually settled the suit with Epstein and that the terms were confidential. After the effort to get Brunel to testify failed, Epstein continued luring victims. When Epstein was found dead in 2019, Brunel went into hiding. And then they launched an investigation shortly after, searched his home and offices. And this is the big one right here. In December 2020, They intercepted Brunel at a Paris airport as he was trying to go to Senegal. He was trying to get out of Dodge, and they took him into custody. So, guys, that right there, I think, is really damning. So they tried to get Brunel to testify. Brunel says, he bounces out. He goes dark. Okay, as soon as Epstein ends up dead, Brunel just disappears. He goes into hiding. I mean, that tells you everything right there, doesn't it? Bro, the minute Epstein is dead, he goes completely off grid, right? And that is dangerous right there. I mean, okay? You know that is a sign, like he knew he was next. It isn't clear from the documents why Brunel kept quiet. What is clear that Brunel didn't cooperate with prosecutors. Epstein remained free for another 3 years, right? He died in jail, supposedly unalived himself. After Brunel stopped negotiations, he wasn't arrested, and they didn't pursue him further. See, that's crazy to me, guys. It set us back a couple years, said David Boies. We know from our lawsuits that there were more than 50 girls that were trafficked after this. Brunel was a central figure in Epstein's orbit who used his position atop a U.S. modeling agency to recruit foreign girls and young women, securing work visas, providing the appearance of real employment. Traveled on Epstein's plane, visited the island, exchanged hundreds of emails. So federal prosecutors were briefed on Epstein's scheme in 2016. Okay, the handwritten notes detail the operation, allegations that Brunel, Maxwell, and others recruited dozens of underage girls. See, that's crazy, guys. They were already working on this in 2016, and none of this shit came through. I mean, we know there's obviously a top-down sort of conspiracy or a top-down, decision-making to ignore all this, but they've had the information. The information has not been hidden. Dude, I think a lot of people are going to lose everything after this. I feel like this is going to haunt many careers here. So Brunel and Maxwell were named as co-conspirators. The prosecutor who took the February 2016 notes later told Justice Department officials she discussed the meeting with colleagues in the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI, but no investigation was opened. The notes about Brunel were redacted in the 2021 court filing. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York declined to comment. Joseph Titone, Brunel's attorney, told the Wall Street Journal he advised Brunel to cooperate and cut ties with Epstein. I recommended and advised him to stop communicating with Epstein, but he never did. Brunel was arrested in 2020 in France, where French prosecutors were investigating him on allegations of rape and supplying girls to Epstein. He died in jail 2022, and Maxwell, of course, was convicted. Prosecutors in Paris on Saturday said they would re-examine the case of Brunel, set up a special team to analyze evidence that could implicate the French nationals in the Epstein case. Now, there's another article here that is a French article. So the Paris prosecutors have opened 2 investigations: human trafficking and the financial stuff. I mean, this is pretty crazy, guys. I really think this is very telling, because Europe may save us again here, because I do notice they're opening an investigation up in the UK. They're opening one up in France now. There's probably going to be other people following suit. I think this is really good for the whole deal. I mean, the U.S. can't stop the whole world. And certainly if everybody else is looking into this, that really sort of forces the U.S.'s hand. So they've opened 2 investigations. One is obviously about the girls, the trafficking. The other one is following the money.